It is 6:30 PM on Tuesday, September 7th, 2021, and I'd like to call the Planning Commission meeting to order. Would you all please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mr. Tuckfield, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Shudo.
Here.
Mr. Provenzano. Here. Mr. Chuckfield is present. Mr. Hardy.
Here.
Mr. Spatafora.
Here.
Mr. Oliver.
Here.
Mr. Bentley. Mr. Chairman, all members present, but Mr. Bentley.
And Mr. Bentley has an excused absence.
And I'd like to make a motion, we exclude Member Bentley from any and all roll call votes.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Shudo, seconded by Mr. Spatafora. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. All right, approval of previous meeting minutes. Is there any discussion?
If none, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the meeting minutes from our previous meeting.
Motion by Mr. Spatafora to approve.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Oliver. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Approval of tonight's agenda. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if there's no further discussion, I make a motion, we accept the agenda as read.
Motion by Mr. Shudo,
Second.
supported by Mr. Tuckfield. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. First item, under new business, rezoning 17669 23 Mile Road, residential, one-family suburban, R1S to general commercial C2. Permanent parcel 0817451-002, located on the north side of 23 Mile, east of Romeo Plank, Section 17, Peter Zingas petitioner. Mr. Box.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. This first item, as you mentioned, is a rezoning R1S to C2 for the property on 23 Mile. This property is immediately adjacent to the industrial district in that area. And currently the site is vacant. The industrial site to the west is developed. There is a residential home on the opposite side of the drain from this property, and that is also currently zoned residential. The existing zoning district, again, it's the same as the property to the north and to the east. As you saw in your packet, I think the letter from our planning analyst mentions that staff cannot support the rezoning due to the fact that it doesn't match the 2008 future land use map. We will point out, however, that there are some similar C2 zoning across 23 Mile as well as to the west. And additionally, the master plan that we're working on now is we are reviewing the property for some non-residential uses that would be compatible with what is being proposed this evening. This is it would not be considered really a spot zone because all of the property to the west, which is industrial zoning allows for C2 uses through the special land use process. So were this to be approved, it would not be considered a spot zone.
Okay, anything else?
Nope, not at this
Okay.
time.
Is the petitioner here? Would you like to come up, state your name and your address for us, please? Right there.
Good evening. My name's Peter Zingas. I'm the petitioner. I'm making the request for the rezoning.
Go ahead, Mr. Zingas, you can sit down here. We're not picking you up on the microphone.
Oh, okay.
There
Sorry.
you go.
Again, good evening. My name's Peter Zingas. I'm the petitioner in this matter. I'm making this request for rezoning from the residential to commercial for Plan quick service restaurant use for the front portion of the property. Believe that this is a unique piece that would be in the best interest of the township as well as the current development. For commercial, it's kind of unique. It's sitting on its own with the drain as a buffer to the subject property, to the next door neighbor, which is residential, and to the west, which is industrial. I understand that the piece to the west also received a variance recently to allow for storage in the back closer to the property line. So again, that would hurt any type of, I think would be a hindrance to any type of proposed residential in the future for this property. I've developed a couple of nice properties, developments in Macomb Township. I developed the 22-mile road in Romeo Plank Surgical Center, which has Silver Pine Family Physicians. It's about 20,000 square feet. And recently, which I believe is a jewel in Macomb Township, is the Precision Surgery Center in Hall Road, 45,000 square feet. So you may recall I've been before you on the rezoning on that property. I only tell you that because of, if you're familiar with those properties, you'll know that the type of pride I take in my developments and ownership, and I have the same feeling about this property, that I will take into consideration that this township, to me, is something that deserves nothing but the best, for its residents, its business people, and the developers. I think that this site has everything that we can work with to put the restaurant there. We've kind of on a two-track to save time. I've also been speaking with the Macomb County Drain Commissioners because of the drain that's there and the easement, and they're willing to work with us. There's some things that they'll want us to do over and above, letting us develop it or having access on the easement. We'll have to clean the drain out and widen it and things like that, which again, I'm okay with because it just enhances the area and the drain and everyone else. The other issue that will help us with the drain is that one of the initial issues with developing this property was trying to get access to the rear acre. So we believe that with the Drain Commission's help, we'll be able to accomplish that with access over the easement. So that makes this win-win for me in terms of the development and also the township in terms of not having property that's in the back that's just sitting undeveloped. I'm open to any questions you might have, but that's pretty much it. Again, because of the buffer that the drain has to the residential piece that's to the east of us, and I believe what may be in the future zoning plans that the township may have for the property next to us, and also because of the commercial use in the hospital that's across the street and the McDonald's and so on, that this is something that would fit in and be cohesive in this area. And I respectfully request that the request for rezoning be approved.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Zengus, could you give us your address for record?
Oh,
Your address?
Sure. Peter Zingus, 645 Griswold, Suite 3466, Detroit, Michigan, 48226. That's my office.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
All right, commissioners, questions? Is there anyone that has a question?
Yeah, I just got one quick. Do you have a company there ready to go, or?
I have a proposed tenant. It's Taco Bell.
Okay.
Yeah, that's who I've been working with, and I believe they've talked to your planning department as well, and also I've talked to the Macomb County Drain Commission and Road Commission, actually.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Anyone
I
else?
think they've been interested in that intersection for a while.
Long time Taco Bell's been floating around there.
They have. They
Yeah.
have. This is my fourth one recently that I'm developing, Taco Bell. So they're great to work with. I'm not commenting on the health of their food or anything like that, but in terms of corporate entity and that, it's really for me I'm lucky to be able to work with them.
Okay.
I'm good, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Spatafora?
Yes, Good evening, Mr. Zingis. I don't know if you remember me, but I remember you. We go back in one of my prior lives when I was with Oakwood Healthcare and then later with Beaumont Health as one of their legal counsel.
Now you say that.
I do have a question, though, on the parcel. As Mr. Box, our planning director, had indicated, based on the 2008 master plan and the updated master plan that's being worked on, you have existing industrial zones could be recommended, which would be inclusive of a C2 zone. Did you ever think with your owner perhaps to come in just to be more consistent with maybe a light industrial zone, recognizing you could also put in a commercial established like that within the C2 zone? Or was it just, C2? Because you can go from like an industrial down to commercial within that through the special land use, but I don't believe you can go from a commercial to a more intensive use like industrial.
I have to tell you something. That's a great comment, and I don't know if it's the right time to bring it up, but so this was my thought, and I didn't know what would come first, or the chicken or the egg. But at one point, I would come back, and I think I've mentioned this to Mr. Box, that would come back and try to do a split between the front piece and the back piece. And the back piece is more conducive to light industrial, I think, because it won't have the frontage on 23 Mile. And so if you're telling me that maybe the better way to go would have been light industrial and then go for site plan approval for the commercial, then I won't disagree with you and appreciate the thoughts. But if it's prohibitive for me to try to put light industrial in the back at some point, then that would be the way to go on.
I'm going to probably defer and listen to the comments from my brethren commissioners here, as well as obviously what our planning department has recommended and as Josh had presented too. It's not a major thing. I'm just, to be consistent all the way around, likely because the future land use map that will come will most likely have that within their industrial as opposed to commercial. But given the circumstances of that property, what is across the street, and through that corner a bit to the east, it's really not inconsistent. So, it's a good, I think it's a good spot, good development, but just, I guess, to clean everything, dotting i's and crossing t's, that's only the reason why I brought that up.
Thanks. I'll bring that up with Mr. Bach as well at some point.
Just to follow up on that, is anything we doing impacting them tonight? So in the future, if he wants to go back to industrial, can that be all tied together?
Well, if he's going to split off the rear of the property, he would rezone that to industrial if that was his intent. But this would not
That would
prevent,
comply.
yeah, this would not
It wouldn't impact.
prevent that.
Yeah, okay.
Again, he's going to be working with the drain office to get some type of access to the rear of the property. He won't be able to split that off unless he has that access to the rear of the property, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. At this time, I'd like to open it to the public. And, hold on a minute. And this is for the rezoning of 17669 23 Mile Road. This is a public hearing on a petition for that rezoning. Any person desiring to be heard will be recognized and will be asked to give their name and address before speaking. We ask that all speakers limit their comments to 4 minutes. Once public hearing is closed, there will be no further discussion or comments from the audience. Is there anyone that would like to speak?
Do we have to open a public hearing?
Oh, we have to open the public hearing first.
I make a motion, we open a public hearing.
Support.
Public hearing, motion by Mr. Shudo, supported by Mr. Provenzano. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and everything I just said applies to the motion. So is there anyone that would like to speak? We open the public portion at 6:54, I think. Nope, 6:44, my computer is off. And if there's no one that would like to speak, I need a motion at 6:45 to close the public.
So moved,
hearing.
Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Oliver, supported by Mr. Provenzano. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Shudo. Next item. Oh, well, now we have to make a motion. All right,
Mr.
just losing my mind here. Okay. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question, Mr. Box?
Absolutely.
Mr. Box, Josh, would it be cleaner and more consistent perhaps if there was a consideration to rezone that whole parcel light industrial and then coming in, you know, with the special land use for commercial? Or is it 6 of one, half a dozen of the other if we stay with the original petition of, and consideration in rezoning it general commercial, and then they'll have to come in the back with another
Sure.
split?
So whether it's C2, general commercial, or light industrial, Taco Bell, as he mentioned, would need a special land use. So he's going to have to come either way back with a special land use. If he's going to rezone the rear portion industrial, he would have to come back again for that. If you're suggesting rezone the whole thing industrial, so it only has one rezoning instead of two, he would still have to come back to do that, and we would not be able to accomplish that tonight because we didn't advertise it as such.
Right.
So it's going to require the same number of meetings.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else? With that being said, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, if there's no further discussion, I'd make a motion on this item.
Okay.
And make sure that I have the parcel ID up here first. Hang on a second.
You already want this?
No, I got it. So I'd like to make a motion that we recommend rezoning of permanent parcel 08174510002 from R1S to general commercial C2. This would be based on considerations for the use and future land use, and also that it would stay consistent with some of the changes we've made it to the industrial zoning with regards to commercial being contiguous with it. And that would be a recommendation to the Board of Trustees to approve said zoning.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Tuckfield, seconded by Mr. Spatafora. Mr. Tuckfield, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Tuckfield's yes. Mr. Spatafora?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Provenzano?
Yes.
And Mr. Shudo?
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay, next item. Item B, rezoning mass rezoning, residential one-family suburban, R1S, to residential one-family urban, R1, located in parts of Section 12, Section 13, Section 24, Macomb Township petitioner. Mr. Box?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. I think this is something you guys have been aware of. We mentioned this several meetings ago that we would be coming here. And in fact, we'll be in front of you for, I believe it's 6 meetings in a row with different phases of this. This is just the first phase. So we wanted to walk you through, since this is the first one, kind of what we're doing, why we're doing it, when we're doing it, and then talk a little bit more about phase 1. So what we're doing here, you see on the wall behind you, the current zoning map and the current zoning districts. It's real simple what we're doing. We're getting rid of a district. It's that simple. We're getting rid of R1S, and in order to do that, we need to rezone a fair amount of properties around the township. So kind of why we're doing it. The category doesn't really correspond with the current master plan, nor will it conform to the master plan that we're working on right now. R1S minimum requirement is 30,000 square foot lots, which is roughly 1.45 units per acre. The lowest density according to the master plan we have right now, as well as will be the master plan that we're working on, is 2 units per acre. So a landowner could actually not get the amount of units that the master plan allows for because of the zone that they're currently in. And this change will allow for conformity between the zoning code and the master plan. So the zoning category matches up with the master plan, both current and the one that we're working on. So that's kind of why we're doing it. And as I mentioned, when we're doing it, we're doing this in 6 phases, tonight being the first phase. The first 4 phases, as you see the color codes there on the map, the first 4 phases are all R1S to R1, and phases 5 and 6 are R1S to another more appropriate zoning category, not R1S. So that being said, just looking at phase 1, these are the properties that we're talking about, sections 12, 13, and 24. As you see on the map on the left, there's actually more than that in sections 12, 13, and 24. Those ones that kind of front on North Avenue will be part of phase 2, so you'll see us in a couple weeks talking about those properties. But for this initial phase 1, these are the properties in question that we are seeking to be rezoned to R1 so that they match the master plan with the zoning ordinance. Some things to look at with making a change of this magnitude. Again, it'll allow the 3 units per acre rather than the 1.45 units per acre that are currently allowed. It will reduce the street frontage required to build a home from 100 feet to 70 feet. There are a number of parcels that, especially in the Fairchild area, that either are larger than they need to be but not quite big enough to be split, or not quite big enough to put in a single unit in there, and by changing them, they would be allowed. All homeowners can continue living as they currently live. If you have uses such as, chickens in your backyard, this is not going to stop you from keeping those. It will not affect your taxes. Another thing we did want to point out that there are a few split zone parcels around the township, and any of those that have the R1S as well as another zone, they're going to be rezoned in its entirety to remove the split zone as well. And this will not prevent landowners from seeking other zones in the future if they want to do that. So at this time, the staff recommends approval of all of these parcels within phase 1 to be rezoned to R1.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Box. Commissioners?
I got one thing to say. I'm gonna defer this to our legal. I have a conflict in section 13 on just one parcel. So I think I'm gonna be abstaining.
Okay.
Should we just take the parcel out and I vote on the rest? What's your advice on that?
Yeah, if there's a way to describe the parcel, you
I-
could take it out.
I pulled up the parcel ID if you want to
Get the
verify
number?
it. Yeah, let me show you the map, because I pulled up GIS, so you can tell me which parcel.
It's this piece.
It's the,
Okay.
give me the number.
It is,
No, he does. Can't vote on it.
0813100022.
0813100022. I think that's our parcel. Yep. So, Mr. Chairman, I will be abstaining from parcel number 0813100022.
I think in order to, so he only has a conflict on one, and so it is appropriate for him to abstain on that parcel in which he owns. In order to appropriately facilitate this, I think there needs to be a motion to split that out into a separate vote. And then you would vote on the entirety less the one parcel, and then vote on the one parcel. And I think that would cover it for tonight's hearing.
All right. Mr. Oliver, can I have that number again?
0813100022.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, commissioners, comments?
What section was that, Charlie?
13.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to split those now, or are we gonna do that?
I think you can do that when you're going to vote. I don't know if you're going to we're at stage right at this point. I'm sorry. In the hearing, but when you're ready.
All right, well, then let's make the motion. And then we'll take it to the public.
Okay, well, then I'd make the motion to split out parcel 0813100022 for separate consideration from the mass zoning that's currently scheduled.
Okay,
Second.
who made the second? Okay, motion by Mr. Tuckfield, seconded by Mr. Spatafora. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Now let's take it to the public for all of B, including this section. And folks, do I need to read this again? I probably don't, right? Okay. All right, so if anybody would like to,
You want me to make a
oh, wait,
motion?
we
open
have
the
to make
public-
a motion first. I don't
Open
know
a
why I'm
public
messing
hearing.
this up. Mr. Shudo is making a motion to open the public portion at 6:55.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Provenzano. So if anybody would like to speak, please come up to the podium and give us your name and address and share with us your thoughts. Yep.
Hi, my name is Janice Kolka. I live at 24641 24 Mile Road. And I didn't bring my glasses, so I'm not exactly sure. Is this our area that we're talking about?
You're,
It might be, I didn't realize when I read this, they were different sections, but I
you're
can,
on the north side of 24. I think that is yours. Yeah.
on the north side,
Yeah,
closer to
because
Fairchild.
you're almost kitty corner from Stillwater, so that's you.
Yeah, that's us. Across from Stillwaters. I don't understand why you're doing just this mass change. We moved out here to have all this open space, and now you wanna, if people wanna split it, is it that hard for somebody to come here and split their property for the most part? If they wanted to, if it was big enough? Is it a problem? I don't know. Whoever
We
can
will
answer me.
address all the comments at the end, so just share,
Oh, I'm
and then
just talking.
we'll
I
come
can't
back
ask
to
a question?
everybody at the end.
All right, well,
Okay.
that's it. We moved out here, we have 8 acres, we love it. I just don't understand why they want to do this blanket change. It's easy for you. There's reasons people move out here. We came from 8 Mile and Mac, and it was all, everybody was crammed in there. And it's just so beautiful out here, and I just hate to see it change. So that's my comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Now's a great time to come up. Anyone? Okay. Then we will, hold on a minute. Let me get my clock here. I'll need a motion to close the public portion at 6:58.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Oliver, seconded by Mr. Spatafora. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Do we have a motion then to do the rezoning?
Mr. Chairman, if I could add some questions for Mr. Box on this. Mr. Box, I guess I did have a couple of follow-up questions, and I apologize, we may have chatted about this briefly, but I have not followed up on that. I guess the first one would be, obviously, these uses can maintain the way they are. They would be an inconsistent zoning, but they're existing, so they'd be able to stay, they'd be able to maintain property transfer. What about things such as additions or sheds on the property? Are there any expected hindrances to an existing use in that regard? And then I guess the second question I have, this is wider. I know we chatted about this, my apologies for not remembering the answer, but what was the thought of doing this before the master plan? Obviously, we're in the middle of the master plan right now. Typically, this would be an extension of that. We're now before it. What's the thought of doing it now? Is there an issue specifically we're addressing now because of it, or what's the thought on that?
Yeah, we've had a number of folks come in, they want lot splits or such, they're running into ratio issues, the 3-to-1 ratio issues and some other items. Especially when we head to the west side of this township, we got smaller lots, they don't really conveniently fit in. So that this R1S category has really made it inconvenient to administer. because it's 30,000 square foot minimum per unit. It's not splitting up nicely, so we just decided to remove that whole category and just move everything, most items to the R1 category, which is just one unit down. If you recall, even though looking at density changes, we're looking at 3 units per acre. Someone could easily come in, develop a lot at 1 unit per acre, or 1.45 like it is right now. It's still legal. It's nothing illegal about it. We're just allowing a little bit more density, and it's the only reason allowing more density is because we're just dropping down the zoning category. It's not like we're moving it to multiple family. We're not doing anything like that. It's just one category. It's similar to how everybody else has had the ability to develop other parcels.
Does it cause us any, hesitate to say liability, but obviously there's a consistency there. Mr. Box was pointing out on our master plan map, we don't even have this density shown.
Yeah.
Does it cause us a problem where we have that inconsistency between our map and our zoning districts for maybe a more structural level?
From an administrative level, it's hard to match up. People come in, they wonder why master plan allows this, and then zoning only allows this much acreage. Other than that, from a legal standpoint, I don't know if there's any issues per se, but it's just not neat and clean. It's difficult to really advise somebody who wants to develop when things aren't matching up.
Okay. And I don't know if you want to add to that, Mr. Roy. Obviously, Josh showed the map, and it's
Was your-
showing the neutral at 2 units per acre or greater.
Right, so I'm trying to understand your question. Are you saying, is there a legal issue by leaving it, the zoning as it is, or by rezoning it?
By leaving it as it is, when you have an inconsistency between the stated zoning and then the zoning essentially shown in broad base on the map.
Right, I don't know that there's a legal issue, it is zoned as it is currently, right? So, it's zoned as it's zoned, and they can use it as it's zoned. But as we've discussed, is that the master plan from 2008 did not address this sufficiently, and the new master plan will not have it in there. From what I know is all the new single-family developments are R1. That's the typical Macomb Township lot is an R1 lot. So it's not like these properties are being zoned to something new or different with more density than unusual. It's just really conforming to what the residential developments have been in Macomb Township for probably the last 2 decades. So the R1S is archaic according to them, and so it's just bringing it up to modern standard.
No, and as I'm sure other people on this board know, I'm assuming Josh and Dave know, we've done this in the past, although much more on an individual basis. I know this is something Jasper's talked about. We used to do this and go through and try to rezone some of these things that are older.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. I guess it seems maybe less than optimal to do it just before, based on what we're expecting to do with the master plan, just before we do it. But obviously, it sounds like it's causing trouble, and that's what I'm trying to balance here. Typically, I would think we'd want to wait, but if it's causing that much of an issue, that's why
Well,
you guys.
if it helps out, if we looked at the 2008 master plan, the new master plan is going to be very similar in terms of residential categories. So if we want to base it on the 2008 master plan,
It
that
still
helps
isn't
out.
there.
This follows where we want to go. So it's not actually preceding something, since what we're doing is,
This is perhaps a delayed reaction to the 2008 master
yeah,
plan, which
I would,
wasn't showing
that's a
this
good way to,
density anyway.
that's a good way
Yeah.
to classify it.
I would say it's more cleaning that up.
Cleaning it up.
And even, I know you're saying this is right before we're finishing a current master plan. Even if the current master plan were finished, it wouldn't rezone these properties. It would just change the future land use projections for them.
Correct, but one of the things we've done is gone through and talked with residents about how we want to look at the township and talk about how we want to consider it. And we had some residents speak up tonight. My memory of that northeast quadrant conversation was almost invariably less density, please, which this doesn't go against per se, but I could see how it could be perceived as such, especially when we're doing it before then. But I think talking about the fact that this is according to the 2008 master plan, that makes more sense to me. I appreciate the clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Tuckfield. Mr. Spatafora.
I'll direct this to Josh. Can you maybe explain your understanding the difference between the R1S and the residential one-family estate R1E that we have as a zoning classification?
Sure, so the R1S, again, has requirements for lot frontages and lot depths, as well as area, which is 30,000 square feet. The R1E does allow a size kind of in between R1 and R1S. And again, these changes, if a landowner wished to go to the R1E level, this would not prohibit them from coming in the future and asking for an R1E rezoning.
So is that more akin and congruent to like a 2 units?
2 units per acre, exactly.
The R1E, as
That's
opposed
correct.
to the 3 for the R1 zoning?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Do I have a motion? I think I've done everything, right? Anyone like to make the motion?
Chairman, I will again. I just got to get back up to my agenda. I have
Gotcha.
this on multiple tabs.
Are you gonna do Charlie's property
I
first?
think this
or-
would be the mass one.
Yeah, this is the mass one,
Second one
minus.
is pulled out.
Mr.
This is
Oliver's
gonna be
property.
minus,
Correct.
Okay.
It doesn't include your property.
Yeah, so this would be for the item 6B, the mass rezoning request from residential one-family suburban R1S to residential one-family urban R1. This would be for all of the permanent parcels included within that original request, except for the one that was split out earlier by motion. The motion would be to recommend approval of these permanent parcels to the Board of Trustees from R1S to R1, based upon conformance with the already existing master plan and documents stating what rezonings or what zonings were expected within the township.
Okay.
I'll support that.
Motion by Mr. Tuckfield, supported by Mr. Shudo. Mr. Tuckfield, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Tuckfield says yes. Mr. Shudo?
Yes.
Mr. Provenzano?
yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Espadafora?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Next motion, who would like to make that?
Aaron has the ID number, you might as well.
Actually,
Yeah, probably the
have it
best.
from, well, I can pull it up. Give me just a second.
Gives
There
us-
it is. I got it. So then this would be a motion with regards to permanent parcel 08131000022, and this would be to recommend to the Board of Trustees to rezone this parcel from R1S to R1. This would be based upon, I should have mentioned it last time, recommendations from the planning staff and conformance with the existing master plan with regards to densities allowed.
And I'll support that again.
Motion made by Mr. Tuckfield, supported by Mr. Shudo. Again, please call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Tuckfield votes yes. Mr. Shudo?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Spadafora?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Abstentions?
Mr. Provenzano?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes with one abstention. Okay, we're good. All right, next item. Old business, planned unit development, general design plan, Maddox. Permanent parcel 0836 353 033 0836 353 023 0836 353 030 and 0836 353 018. Located on the north side of Hall Road and east of North Avenue, Section 36. Carl Zimmerman, petitioner. I could almost do this in my sleep. Mr. Box.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. Again, not to sound like a broken record, we did work with them on Friday. We had a meeting early in the morning as well as again around lunchtime after they had seen some examples of what we were looking for. And I think we are in a spot where we've got the lines on the map where we want them. Now they're working on making the PUD agreement line up with that. Again, at this point, I would say, Ben, unless you feel otherwise, I would anticipate they're ready at the next meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that, well, we've got some drawings to finish up, I think, from latest comments. We did get an updated document from them in terms, and so we're working in the right direction, but it's just taking longer than we anticipated.
Okay. Mr. Box or Mr. Aloya, would it be best just to table this for a month to give them the time that they need to get things situated? I mean, obviously, 2 weeks hasn't worked.
Yeah, it hasn't, but
Could they come before us sooner than a month?
it's possible. I mean, we're very close, and so I think once we know where we're at with the drawing, which could happen within the next few days, then it's very possible we can get on the next agenda. So
Okay.
I appreciate what you're saying, but at this time, I just think it's best to push it to the 23rd.
I wasn't thinking of us, I was thinking of them. Just having that extra time might be valuable.
And the other thing is, I'm not going to be here on the meeting in the first week in October, so I will tell them I prefer them to get on as soon as possible and get
Okay.
what they need to done.
All right. Do we need to make a motion to table this? Is that correct, Mr. Box?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
We need to make a motion to table this. Is that
Correct.
correct? Before we do that, is there any discussion? Anybody? Anybody that would like to make the motion to table this to the next meeting?
If there's no further discussion, Mr. Chairman, I move that we table this particular agenda item to the Planning Commission meeting. I believe it's for September 21st, 2021.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Spatafora to table this item until September 21st. Seconded by Mr. Provenzano. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, public comments on non-agenda items. Is there anyone here that would like to come up and speak? Anyone? Tuesday must be a bad day for TV, for crying out loud. Okay, all right, then we'll move on to commissioners' comments. Anyone? Going once? Okay. The next item will be Macomb Township Board of Trustees Liaison Update, Mr. Charles Oliver.
Before we go any further, I've got a question to Josh.
Oh.
These agenda items that we recommended approval, will they be on tomorrow's agenda for the board?
No, they'll be on the following board meeting.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to make sure. Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, sir. Mr. Oliver.
Yes, a couple things. If any of the board members have driven in a subdivision called Chelsea Park, they would know what I'm talking about here. The residents got together, they got a petition put together for a special assessment for a road. I don't think all of it, I think it's gonna go in phases. And, the township is gonna kick in some money too to get that project moving. The county's kicking in money. And, hopefully them residents will get a good road.
Yeah.
So that's moving forward. Another thing is, our assessor, if anyone knows Dan Hickey, he is, retiring. And, we'll be replacing, Dan with a new assessor, level 4, in the future. So,
Okay.
and that's about it.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes,
when
sir.
is the dedication for the library?
Well, the fire station is tomorrow,
Okay, the fire station, tomorrow at 10, right?
10 o'clock, yep.
Okay.
The library, I got it, but I don't have it. When is it?
19th.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. September 19th at 2 p.m.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Question for Mr. Oliver.
Yes.
Where is the Chelsea subdivision located?
22 Mile Road, just,
It's between Card and Heidenreich.
yeah.
Pardon me,
It's
between
actually
Heidenreich
the
and Romeo
second
Plank. Sorry.
sub in there, yeah. And the road just, it started falling apart probably right after it was poured. It was just,
Yeah.
everything went wrong with it. And the residents have really been struggling with it. And they tried an SAD once before, and I think with a little help from the county and the township, it got it moving. And that's not gonna be the pattern of the township to be building roads, but in this particular case, you know, we felt that there was something needed to be done, so.
Yeah. Okay. All right. ZBA Liaison update, Mr. Aaron Tuckfield.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we had a meeting last Thursday, and we had one variance request. I think there was one variance request from Meyer that was, they pulled out the request for the signs. And we had another pool variance that we looked at. Pool variances have been becoming much more common, and I believe from what Josh has been telling me that we're expecting more of them. So I'm not sure if there's anything specifically we're going to do with it, other than it's the same old, people want a pool in their backyard, and the size that they want doesn't fit very well. So I'm not sure if we're going to do anything specifically to change it, but it's more of a pattern with that than anything else. So we've got more of those coming along, but besides that, I think ZBA's run along pretty normally.
Okay.
So most of your hardship or requests are for pools, or you're getting a lot of them, or?
We're getting a lot of them. I don't know what the ratio is, but I'd say probably 1 out of every 3, 1 out of every 4 right now.
Are the pools just getting bigger?
I mean, there's a combination of things. Some of them are bigger pools. Some of them they're trying to put in weird stuff. This particular one, they had a wall in a strange place, and they had a hot tub that they wanted closer to the property line. But you know, if you're in a 120 by 70 lot and you try to put in a patio and a pool, you run out of space really quick. If there's anything unusual with the property, you run into trouble. So
And the size of the house has to make a difference too now, because the houses are getting a lot bigger.
they are. People are using up the buildable area, and pushing everything out to the edge of the lots. So, again, I'm not sure if we're going to do anything about it. We've talked about it before, and there might be some things we can do about it, but at the moment, I think people are going to use whatever space they're given. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Tuckfield. Planning Department items, Mr. Box or Mr. Skirdo?
Yeah, just one item I did want to announce. Probably 3-ish months ago now, I mentioned that we were going to be getting an intern, a young lady who lives in the township, has a planning degree, but due to COVID wasn't able to do an internship during school. She had graduated and applied for lots of jobs and couldn't find anything because everybody said you have no experience. So she came, she did an internship, and I'm excited to announce that today was her first day of work for the city of Flint. She has accepted a job and started today, so I think it was great that the township gave an opportunity to a resident, and it looks like it paid off, so.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Good to hear.
Cool. Anything else, Mr. Box?
Oh, that's it.
Mr. Skirdo, anything from you, sir? Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Shudo,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Spatafora. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned at 7:20.